enter the seasonally slower housing market, I want to remind you that there are a couple of things that you and I should be looking for. Again, if we're out here doing the work, looking for great deals, the second half of the year has historically provided me with the greatest opportunity. Why? Because buyers pull back and sellers, the ones that have to sell, increasingly get motivated. That said, undoubtedly, the Crash Bros will make their cringe-worthy videos. So I thought what I would do is give you a little housing market 101. Because I have been accused of saying the housing market never goes down, which, if you know my story, is actually historical. Not only did I think we would have a housing crash in the Great Recession, I, unlike all of the renters, took action, right? A lot of the people spouting housing market data are actually renters and never took action with their own money. If you've taken the time to read my book, One Rental at a Time, you know that one of the greatest moves we made was in 2005 and 2006 because we saw pain coming. And how did we see pain coming? Well, there was a couple of things. First and foremost, you need to understand that the pain was building for years. I believe the one thing that most Crash Bros get wrong in their cringe-worthy videos is timing. A lot of them don't appreciate, understand, or have researched history. They look at a single metric and say, ooh, look at that metric, everything must crash. Folks, the housing market is not crypto. It is not stocks. It doesn't move that way. There is something known as price elasticity. Simply said, it is how sticky prices are, especially on the downside. And again, something else that people don't appreciate about homes, unlike crypto and stocks, is you have to live somewhere. Most people don't want to live in a car. They don't want to live on the street. So again, people will fight and do everything they can. So again, I am here to tell you today that absolutely prices could come down. Frankly, I'll even go out on a limb and say prices could crash, but it would take a series of events and quarters and likely years to get us to a point where there would be significant pain. And then don't forget. So first off, they don't understand timeline. Second of all, you need to hear this. The entire financial system learned their lesson last time. What did I mean by that? In the Great Recession, the environment that I sold in, the financial institutions would say something like, we can't help you until you're 90 days late. Now, historically, looking at the facts, if you got 90 days late, there was over a 90% opportunity that you would either be short sold or foreclosed because there was no equity. What did we learn during COVID? Banks do not want mass foreclosures. So they will input forbearance. They will tack on silent seconds. Frankly, they will bend over backwards repeatedly not to file the NOD, notice of default, to not start the foreclosure process. So again, we have years of pain build. We have unemployment over 7% for years. We have a 12 to 18 month nasty recession, which is a year to a year and a half. We are now at the point where banks can no longer extend and pretend. The pain is too great. Oh, by the way, we are today having this theoretical conversation with you. I will remind you that we are in 2026 now. Here is the next thing that the Crash Bros don't understand and don't get right. Let's say we are in 2026. Unemployment is still 7%. The economy is still in a recession, negative GDP. Banks can no longer extend and pretend they're in trouble. We are losing banks left, right, and center. They start filing NODs, notice of default, and foreclosures start happening en masse. last point about this timeline problem. If you go back and look at history, which I have, the average foreclosure time was almost 1,000 days. So folks, we start the real pain in 2026. If we assume there's 2 or 3 years of just mass foreclosures, we are suddenly in 2029. That's just how it works. That's reality. That's not some fear-based, single metric nonsense. What the Crash Bros got wrong is they were stuck in the Great Recession. They had not studied history. They do not understand economics. They do not understand housing. If you go back and look at the 54-year spreadsheet, which I highly recommend you do, the answers are there. We have been in this movie before. We have been in an environment where rates shot up over 500 basis points. We have been in environments where inventory crashes. We have been in environments where transactions crash. And that is the greatest shame, is we actually had a housing crash. I would argue we had a housing depression. Folks, if you go from 6.6 million transactions to 3.89, which I believe was the bottom, that's a crash. That's a depression. Unfortunately, given all the other variables around housing, we now see housing at record prices. Now, again, remember, we are heading into the second half of the year. It is slower. So what should you be doing today if you want to understand your market? Well, the thing that I would do first is I would get a buy box, which you've heard me talk about, a specific set of criteria that allows you to look at it consistently. I prefer daily. What you then need to do is track it daily. Look for changes. What you're going to be looking for is A, is my buy box growing? Is inventory growing? Some are, some aren't. Then what you need to do is you need to start tracking price reductions. At what point does my buy box see price reductions? Now, in some of your markets, it might be 10 days. Some of your markets, it might be 21 days. Some of your markets might be 45 days. And what I want you to figure out here, this is important. I believe a lot of the listings inside your buy box are a combination of must sell and want to sell. And it is your job to find the must sell. The want to sell, this is actually going to turn out to be fake inventory. What do I mean fake inventory? Let's say you are in a market where the natural price for something would be 200 grand. I could, if I was in that market, list a house, for example, at 250 grand. Even though, again, in this example, the house in today's market is 200. Why could I list it at 250? Well, if I don't have to sell, I could always wait. I could always hope. I could always, put it out there and say, hey, if some idiot wants to pay $250 for my house, I will sell. You won't counter a 225. You won't counter a 210. You certainly won't take a 200. Why? Because you don't have to sell. You're looking for that one person who wants that one house for some unique reason and will overpay. And now what happens to that listing at 250? It stays active for 3 months, for 6 months, never has a price drop. It looks like stale inventory, but it will goose inventory. So what we are likely going to see is inventory kind of tick up. And then as we get to August or September, as listings start to roll off because they're fake listings, you're going to see inventory fall in the second half, which again is historically accurate. That's typically what happens. So again, folks, I am here to tell you that I am more excited about the housing market the second half of 2024, which, oh, by the way, starts today. Happy July. Because I know that there are some motivated sellers out there in my buy box, and it's my job to find them. And as we tick along, as I understand the rhythm of the market, it will become more obvious which ones are motivated and which ones simply are not. So again, this is important stuff. This is what I want you to be looking at. So watch for inventory building. Figure out which properties have wish pricing or not, aka price reductions are a good signal. Who has to sell? Write your aggressive offers, disrespectful offers that make sense to you. And also know your numbers. You don't get just because you got a 20K price reduction does not make it a great deal. It doesn't, not in my world. It only is a great deal if the yield on your investment is higher than average. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you need to buy the course, you need to get in the school. This is how it works. Getting a price reduction doesn't mean anything. If it's not a great yield or cash on cash return or return on capital or whatever you want to call it, I don't care. If it's an alligator, even with a 20K price reduction, I don't care. It's not a good deal. So be careful out there. Folks, I want to remind you, if you are a part of school, we have the one and only Frank, Old Guy REI, doing an accountability group tonight at 6 o'clock. Folks, I'm a huge believer in accountability groups, especially when you are in the beginning of this. You want to get around people that are doing the work, having the questions, pulling you forward, answering other questions, networking. Folks, I've told you repeatedly, one of the biggest mistakes I made my first 5 years is I didn't get in the right groups. I tried to be that lone wolf who said he was busy and traveling all over the world. Today, you don't have that excuse. You could be anywhere in the world. Join school, get in accountability groups, join them, be active. And here is a treat. Today is the first one on Monday. What Frank is committed to, and I will load it later today, is you will have a Wednesday accountability group every week. This is what we are bringing to school, folks. This is my vision. Let's find good people. Let's mash them together. Let's get in the right rooms and do all of that. If you are stuck, you need to join school. You need to get in the accountability groups. You need to do the work. So again, lots of good stuff there. Also, I have reached out to April Crosley. Make money when buying. Exactly. Wealth journey. Yes, it's absolutely correct. You make your money when you buy, not when you sell, which is people really have a hard time with. Also, remember, folks, we're going to talk out-of-state investing tomorrow, 9 a.m. Pacific, with the one and only financial firefighter. Lives in Hawaii, invests in Pittsburgh. We're going to talk out-of-state investing. Join school. Get in the rooms. And if you can't make the time, I get it. It's early. It's work hours. There will be a replay. I will post the replay later in the afternoon right there inside school. So go get it. Couple things caught my attention this morning. The 10-year note. The 10-year note spiked big time this morning. I'm not sure why. Right? PCE came in as expected. We got, generally speaking, some weak economic news this morning, construction spending and the like. But the 10-year note popped. Last time I saw it was up 10 basis points, which is pretty ridiculous for a single morning move. I don't know if this is the start of the bond vigilantes. I don't know if this is a reaction to the debate. I don't know. But I did notice it because I didn't expect it to move 10 basis points Monday morning. So that'll be interesting. I got some interesting notes about the wealthy, and we actually have two age brackets. We have 43 and younger and 44 and older. This was a BofA, Bank of America survey. Basically, where are the wealthy keeping their money? So it looks like if you are someone who is 44 or older, you are keeping roughly 55% of your money in stocks, 15% in cash, and 1% in crypto, with a smorgasbord of everything else. What was interesting is if you were 43 or younger, there were kind of two things that caught actually three things. First off, probably not a surprise, crypto, instead of being 1%, is 14%. 14% for folks 43 and younger. Stocks, boy, if you are in the stock, like if you're a portfolio manager or something, this should alarm you. 43 and younger, only 28% of your wealth is in stocks. And again, I remind you that the 44-year-olds is basically double that at 55. And then finally, cash. I found it interesting that the younger group actually had more cash as a percentage. They had 19% versus 15 for the folks over 44. I found that stuff very, very interesting. We got Roaring Kitty in the news. Actually, I don't know if you saw this. It looks like Roaring Kitty was sued by someone on Friday for his GameStop stuff. No idea. Didn't read the suit, but I did see the headline. Also this morning, it looks like Roaring Kitty owns 6.6% of Chewy. I don't know if you saw that, but yeah, apparently he owns 6.6% of Chewy. He is clearly making moves. All right, that's what I got. I guess the last thing I'll tell you about school, I think it's July 11th. July 11th, inside school, you're going to have the opportunity to speak and interact with Henry Washington. Henry Washington. And right after Henry, you've got a double dip. Lance Lambert from Resi Club is going to come on and do deep dives on your buy box in your areas. He's going to give you a peek behind the curtain of all that data that he has. So again, folks, we got a lot more people coming. Millennial Mike's coming. And many others. So join school, get a part of the group. Really, seriously, if you're stuck, if you're slow, join the accountability group, which Frank is kicking off tonight. I think it's 6 Eastern or 6 Pacific. And then going forward, looks like it will be Wednesday. So have fun. Take care of yourself. Later.